Hello all out there in YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Horror Talk, the show where a guy who has an unhealthy obsession with horror rambles on and on about the genre he loves. I am the Maniac, your nightmare in the morning, your midnight fantasy. Sorry, just having a little fun here. As you can see from the title of this video here, this was an idea I came up with a while back, and I mentioned talking about it in my last Horror Talk, where I talked about horror comedies. The idea is horror movie villains that could beat Superman. Now, let me clarify something here first. For any Superman fans I have watching this video, when it comes to the internet, fan bases tend to get a tad angry when you bash whatever it is they're a fan of. And I want to clarify in this video, the title is mostly for clickbait. I thought this would just be a fun thought exercise here. I'm not saying that any horror villain can actually beat Superman, and if any media were to come out, whether it be a comic book, a fan film, or a movie, TV show, whatever, the horror villain would never beat Superman. Superman is a hero, so nobody would ever allow that to happen. Like I said, I thought this would just be a fun thought exercise because we as nerds enjoy crossovers. And if there's one thing that Hollywood rarely gives people, it's what they want. Hollywood rarely gives people crossovers, even though people really want crossovers. So, I thought this would be just a fun little discussion about combining the horror genre with the superhero genre. Now, a little backstory of my history with the superhero genre. When it comes to superheroes, I am a very, very, very casual fan. My knowledge on superheroes is very limited. I have watched plenty of superhero movies, but it's a genre that I do like, and I've always wanted to kind of get into superheroes because I've always found them interesting, but it's something I've had a hard time really getting into. I've always wanted to, try to get into comic books, but I never was really able to, and it's kind of overwhelming with all the comics that are out there right now. I'm not saying that I've never read comics, but my favorite comics are Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah, I know, grown man who loves Calvin and Hobbes. I don't care what anyone says. Calvin and Hobbes is timeless. I will put Calvin and Hobbes over Superman any day of the week. But yeah, I mean, I'm not that familiar with superheroes. I know just the very basics when it comes to superheroes. Most of what I know comes from, certain elements of pop culture and, of course, the movies that have come out recently. I have watched, recent superhero movies. I've seen the Marvel movies. I've seen the DC movies. I've liked some. I've disliked others. And specifically, like with this recent run of Marvel movies leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, I was entertained by them. I did want to see where the series was going to go, and I did watch the movies when they came out. As good as, I thought Infinity War, I almost said Xfinity War, but Infinity War, as good as Infinity War and Endgame are, I haven't really had a desire to return to those movies. I saw them once. I'm glad I saw them. I'm glad I saw where the story went. I just don't have any real desire to return to them. I understand why they're so popular. I understand why so many people love these movies. And if I were with a group of friends and they wanted to pop in a superhero movie, I would watch it with them gladly. It's just something that I'm not going to return to anytime soon. I'll still check out other superhero movies every now and again, but it's just that genre that I like. I get why people like it. it's just sort of once and done for me with these movies. That being said, I am familiar with Batman and Superman, because like many kids growing up when I was a kid, Batman and Superman were the first heroes I learned about. That seems to be the case with a lot of people when they were kids. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, those are the early heroes that we first learn of, because they're so ingrained in pop culture. I mean, you think heroes, Batman, Superman are the first two that pop into your head. So I do have a familiarity with Batman and Superman. I will admit I am a little more of a Batman fan than a Superman fan, but don't take that too personally, because there are so many movies I like more than Batman and Superman. The thing with me, and the reason why I have a hard time getting into some superhero stuff, I won't say that, but the reason I don't really return to Superman stuff is I like when my characters could die at any moment. You know, I mean, I like it when the characters really have to struggle to get through whatever obstacle they do. Not saying that superheroes don't struggle, but the struggles they have to go through are so immense. Like, you know, Superman has to fight these big cosmic entities, these godlike entities, but when he goes to stop some bank robbers from a bank, you know he's going to be perfectly fine. You know, I like my more human characters. Like, we know that James Bond, John McClane, and Indiana Jones are not going to die, but we know that they could die because they are human, and you know they get beaten up. I like that. But that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed Batman and Superman related material. I mean, when it comes to Superman and Batman in that case, my knowledge is very basic. I mean, the main source of my knowledge comes from the Batman animated series and the Superman animated series. That's what I grew up with, like many of us grew up with. But I still think those are top-tier shows, and they're a great introduction to those superheroes. And, like, even though I do like Batman more than Superman, I understand why people like Superman. I get it. He's someone you can look up to. He's someone you can aspire to. I like that. But the reason I like Batman a little more is he's a little more damaged, and that's, I guess, connects with me because I'm very damaged. Anyway. But when deciding to do this list, I decided to do this with Superman, one, because the new Snyder cut of Justice League came out, so I figured, hey, what better time to do this video? And I decided to do I decided to do Superman over Batman because I thought Superman would be a little more of a challenge. And in terms of Batman, because I've seen, you know, videos and articles of stuff of, you know, Batman versus some other character in film or pop culture, and I'm just going to say this, Batman fans have kind of taken all the fun out of those kinds of conversations. You know, Batman versus whoever, they've taken all the fun out of those conversations because, let's face it, whenever there is some kind of discussion of Batman versus anybody, Batman gets a handicap. I'm sorry to Batman fans out there, but that's true. Batman always gets a handicap. He's allowed to have prep time before the fight. And whenever the situation comes up, it's like, well, if Batman gets prep time, then whoever he's fighting against gets prep time. The Batman fans say, no, that's not fair. No, Batman's the only one who's allowed to have prep time. And it's because Batman needs prep time, because, let's face it, Batman is human, so Batman goes against some supernatural force. He's not going to do very well unless he has prep time. And it's always an infinite amount of prep time. Essentially, Batman is allowed as much prep time as he needs to win the fight. Not stand a chance in the fight, win the fight. That's just how it is. You know, it's just like, Superman is never going to lose in a fight, which is one of the reasons why I'm not too interested in Superman. But Batman is never allowed to lose a fight, which is why I hate conversations with Batman versus anybody. Because Batman's just not allowed to lose. Because he's allowed an infinite amount of prep time and allowed to do... I read this one thing where, I can't remember who Batman was facing, but the odds of him winning were impossible, but people in the comments were literally saying, oh yeah, well he would just, trap whoever it is into some spaceship that would circle around the sun for eternity, and then a robot would go up and fix it. That's what Batman would do. This is what people were literally saying. And I'm just like, this is no fun anymore. So, that's the main reason why I decided to go with Superman with that, and Superman would be more of a challenge when finding a horror villain who could stand a chance against him. And, so yeah, it's like, my knowledge with Superman is still very basic. I did a little research before doing this, just so I could get some more information on Superman, because I know his weaknesses are Kryptonite, magic is a weakness of his, and I know that he gets his power from the yellow sun of Earth. I do know some of my shit when it comes to these superheroes, but again, the very basic stuff. So, because Superman came from Krypton, where they had a red sun, and then he was sent to Earth, where we have a yellow sun, and the yellow sun is where Superman gets his strength from. Essentially, Superman is solar powered, in a way. And I have read that if Superman is away from a yellow sun for a long period of time, his powers start to drain. But from what I understand, he has to be away from a red sun, from a yellow sun for a long time. I'm not sure how long, but it's a decent amount of time. But so it's like Kryptonite and magic are his two main weaknesses. There probably are some other ones too. But again, because I'm approaching this as a horror fan, not so much as a superhero fan. So, yes, I'm not that familiar with Superman, so if there is anyone in the comments who wants to bring up some obscure fact about Superman that only appears in some very vague comic book that only die-hard Superman fans would know about, do me a favor. Shut up. Seriously, I don't mean shut up, but I'm not a huge Superman fan. I don't really care about the history of Superman. I just wanted to talk about fun ideas for crossovers with a horror villain that could stand a chance against Superman. Because if you are going to have a crossover with Superman and a horror villain, or Superman with anyone, you want Superman to have to struggle. You want it to be like a thing where the villain stands a chance, because that's what adds to the dramatics. It adds to the tension. It adds to the drama of the situation. You don't want to just have Superman easily beat whatever he's fighting against, because there's no fun in that. So after that long introduction, let's get into the topic at hand. Horror movie villains that could stand a chance against Superman. One thing that somebody mentioned in the comments of my horror comedy video was death from the Final Destination movies. And yeah, that makes sense. I mean, no one can face death, but in those movies, death is more of a force and less of a character, and I wanted to focus on horror villains that were actually characters. Another very obvious choice for a horror villain that could go up against Superman is obviously Brandon Breyer from Brightburn. Try saying that 5 times. And yeah, that's the one that makes the most sense. You know, Brandon Breyer, Brightburn, for anybody who hasn't seen it, I'm sure most people have, it is essentially what if Superman came to Earth and was evil. It focuses on Brandon Breyer, who has like Superman-esque abilities, and he's a little kid, but instead of becoming a hero, he becomes a villain. And yes, it would make plenty of sense because Brandon Breyer essentially has all the same superpowers as Superman, so it makes sense to put him up against Superman. But that's not an idea I would like to go for, because an idea of an evil version of Superman has already been done before. You know, that's one of the things that bugged me about when Brightburn came out, is so many people were saying, oh my god, what an original idea, an evil version of Superman. We've never seen that before. Yes, we have. His name is Zod. You know, like in Superman Returns, Superman 2, the older one, and the new Man of Steel movie, the enemy he fights is Zod. a Kryptonian who comes to Earth and is evil. So he has all the same powers as Superman, he's just a bad guy. So, Brandon Breyer fighting against Superman, essentially something we've already seen before. An evil Superman versus the good version of Superman. Zod. It's something we've already seen, so it's not really an idea I wanted to go with, because that's too easy, and again, we've seen it already. So, let's think about horror villains that could actually stand up against Superman in a way. We might as well start with the three big ones, I mean, let's talk about the three most popular horror villains, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger. Right away, we can take Michael and Jason off the list. There's no way in hell either one of them would be able to stand a chance against Superman. I mean, I love Michael Myers, and it's true he's treated more as some kind of entity than an actual person, but he still is made of flesh and blood, and no matter what version you look at, whether it's the one from the original 2 Halloweens, whether it's the one from the Thorn trilogy, 4, 5, and 6, or back to the human ones, or even the new version, Michael Myers would not stand a chance against Superman. He might be stronger than most humans, but come on. Same thing with Jason Voorhees. Again, Jason Voorhees has come back from the dead as some kind of zombie, but again, I don't think he's going to stand much chance. I know he's not going to stand much chance against Superman because he's Superman. You can even add that to the cyborg version of Jason that you get from Jason X, Jason in Space. Again, a strong version of Jason, but not one that would stand a chance against Superman. While we're at it, we might as well also knock Leatherface and Chucky off the list. I mean, I love Leatherface. I am a diehard Leatherface fan, but yeah, he's not going to stand a chance against Superman. And Chucky, I apologize to any Child's Play fans out there, but Chucky, I mean, come on, that is a joke. I mean, you and I both know that the Chucky doll against Superman, that's laughable. That's not going to happen at all. But when you look at the other option of Freddy Krueger, that is where you might have something here. Now, before I get into why Freddy Krueger would work as a villain against Superman, we have to address this one question. Does Superman need to sleep? I did research on this because when I looked into this, I wanted to be sure of this before I went into more detail about this. Doing a little research on if Superman needs to sleep, and the answer is no. From what I've read, from the different sources that I've read, no, Superman does not need to sleep, but Superman does sleep. The reason for that is he lives amongst humans, he likes feeling human, he likes passing off as human, and he likes that connection with his humanity, so he does sleep even though he doesn't need to. And we can obviously say that if Superman sleeps, Superman dreams. But then you have the question, or you have the problem, well, if Superman doesn't need to sleep, then he already has a way to beat Freddy Krueger. He just doesn't go to sleep. And I thought about that too, but I may not know too much about Superman, but I do know that Superman will do anything to protect people. The main thing that Superman loves are the Earthlings that he watches over. He loves Earth. He loves this world that took him in and accepted him. So he would do anything to protect these people. He would let a villain get away if it meant saving one life. And then you have an entity like Freddy Krueger, which is a villain he can't physically fight. Because Freddy Krueger exists in dreams, he exists in nightmares, he exists on this completely different plane of existence that is not reality. So people would be getting killed off in their dreams, and Superman couldn't do anything about that in the real world. The only way he would be able to stop that is by going to sleep, and facing Freddy in his dreams. And people can say, you could make the argument that, well, hey, somebody else could go to sleep, grab Freddy, wake up, and bring Freddy into the real world, because we know that's how it works in here. If someone grabs onto Freddy in the dream and then wakes up with Freddy in their grasp, Freddy is now in reality. And the minute Freddy is in reality, then it's game over, then Superman can deal with Freddy and it's all over. But I don't think that Superman would allow that. I don't think he would allow someone else to risk their life to try to bring Freddy out of the dream. Plus, Superman would have to find that out. There are people who know that if you get a hold of Freddy and wake up with him, you can bring him out of the dreams, but not a lot of people know about that, and I don't think Superman would know about that either, so Superman would have to find that out. So I do think that the only way Superman would be able to protect people from Freddy is by going to sleep and facing Freddy in the dream world. And that's where the threat lies. Looking at it from this angle, as long as Superman can't get a hold of Freddy and bring Freddy into the real world, that's where Superman is vulnerable from Freddy. Because again, this is dreams. This is not reality. Freddy has control of this world, and he can essentially do anything here. And something about Freddy knows what people are afraid of. Freddy knows people's weaknesses because he has access to their dreams. He has access to their psyche. So he'd be able to know what Superman is afraid of, and let's say, like, Kryptonite. Freddy could make himself into Kryptonite. He could create a world made of Kryptonite. He could essentially make Superman into Kryptonite. Freddy has manipulated other people's bodies before in their dreams. Like in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where Freddy cut that guy's arms and legs open and then used their veins to control him like a marionette puppet. Or in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, where you had that woman who was afraid of bugs, and Freddy essentially turned her into a cockroach, and then put her in a roach motel and crushed her in a roach motel. And here's the question about this too. Now, Superman would Superman or would Superman not have his powers in the dream world? I think he would. But again, Freddy could manipulate it so that the sun is red or something like that. But even with his powers, even if Superman had his powers in the dream world, I still think he would be vulnerable against Freddy. Because this is, you could call it magic, to which Superman is vulnerable to. But again, you also have to incorporate the fact that it's not reality, it's dream. I think Freddy would be able to cut Superman in the dreams, because that's, again, Freddy can manipulate dreams, so he could probably make it so he could physically cut Superman. Again, all Superman would have to do is get a hold of Freddy and wake up with him so he's now in the real world, and then it's game over. But if he can't get a hold of Freddy, then that's where things kind of get dangerous for him. All because this takes place in the dream world. And that's why Freddy is so dangerous, because he lives in dreams where he has control of so much, where he can essentially do anything. Even cut Superman. In the dream. In this nightmare world where Freddy reigns supreme, he could hurt Superman. So that's one character. I mean, out of, the big horror movie characters, Freddy's the only one that actually could be a threat to Superman. So, we've got him so far. So we have one. We have one horror villain so far that could stand a chance against Superman. There's a few others that we can look at. I mean, one that I guess would make sense in some way is the Xenomorph, because it's an alien and Superman's an alien. But that would have to be the right set of circumstances for a Xenomorph to be able to stand a chance against Superman. Because even a colony of Xenomorphs probably Superman would be able to fight back against them, more than likely. It would have to be the right kind of scenario, like it takes place on a planet with a red sun, or something like that. There's one nightmare scenario that might make it so a Xenomorph could fight Superman. So, what's the main trait of a Xenomorph? Whatever organism they impregnate, they take on traits of that organism. Now, I don't think a facehugger would be able to latch onto Superman, lay an egg inside Superman, and hatch out of Superman. I don't think that would happen at all. But one thing I've noticed with comics, and with Superman comics, is there always somehow manages to be a Kryptonian still alive. Somehow. Like, somehow a Kryptonian is still alive in some way. You know, like you have Supergirl, and I think there's a chimp with Superman powers, and I think there's a dog with Superman's powers. Ridiculous, I know. Again, knowledge of Superman is very basic. But anyway. So, what if there was some kind of alien mad scientist? This is going to be very convoluted, so hang in there. Some kind of alien mad scientist that found some Kryptonians still alive, was able to get a hold of one of those Kryptonians and impregnate them with a Xenomorph. Then a Xenomorph hatches out of that Kryptonian, and then you send that Xenomorph to Earth. Now you have a Xenomorph with Kryptonian abilities. Oh god, that is ridiculous, I know, but that's like the nightmare scenario. Would the Xenomorph be able to fly? Would it have super strength in a yellow sun? God, that is ridiculous. Very, very convoluted plot, I know. That's why I'm not going to include the Xenomorph with Freddy as a villain who could stand a chance against Superman. But it was just fun to think of that. Like, think about it. A Xenomorph with Kryptonian traits up against Superman. That is just, like, apocalyptic. Right there! Silly as hell. Yeah, convoluted, I know, but I don't know much about comic books, but one thing I do know for certain about comic books is they can be pretty convoluted, too. So, why not? Okay. So we're not going to include a Xenomorph as a horror villain that could fight Superman, just because the situation would have to be just right, and again, you'd have to get into a very convoluted plot for that to work. There is the possibility of Pinhead from the Hellraiser series. I do love the Hellraiser movies. I love the first two and Hellraiser's Inferno. I thought the series would be better if it did not focus on Pinhead as the villain, but focused as the Box as the main villain. There is a comic series for the Hellraiser series, and I've researched this, and in the comic series, the Lament configuration is not the only puzzle that opens the gates of hell. There are multiple different types of puzzles, and multiple different Cenobites, and most stories involve whatever puzzle creating this own version of somebody else's hell. And that would be interesting in terms of Superman if that's the way they went. But the question is, like, if you were going to have Pinhead from Hellraiser up against Superman, the question is, could the hooks hurt Superman? I'm not sure if they would. I mean, they are magic. They're from this netherworld area. They're from a different plane of existence. They're from hell, essentially. And could they puncture Superman's skin? I don't know. I don't know for certain. It's not like with Freddy Krueger, where he's in this dream reality, and it's more of a... that makes more sense in my mind, that Superman could be damaged there. I'm not sure if Superman would be damaged by things that the Cenobites did in Hellraiser. It would all depend on if their torture devices could hurt Superman. I'm not sure if they would. They might have. They might, because it is hell. It is hell. There is a magic here. There is a supernatural force here. But I can't say for certain if that would be the case. If they could damage Superman, then the Cenobites would be an interesting matchup for Superman. But because we can't say for certain if these torture devices can harm Superman, I'm not going to count them either. So far we still only have one villain that could stand a chance against Superman, Freddy Krueger. And by the way, I'm only focusing on horror movie villains here. I'm only focusing on horror villains from movies, because, I mean, I know you have TV shows and books and comics and stuff like that, but if we opened it that much, then that's just way too much to talk about, so we're only focusing on movies here. And that brings us to another character that might be a good adversary for Superman. I was thinking about this, and I almost kicked him to the side with the others. I almost put him there with Chucky and Leatherface and Michael and Jason. But then I started thinking about it, and I started wondering, could this be a good enemy for Superman? Candyman. Let me explain here, because I thought about this, because I was seriously thinking of kicking him out. But I think there is a way for Candyman to be an enemy for Superman. Because he is dead. He is essentially a ghost. But that does not mean that he could cut Superman with his hook. I don't know if he'd be able to. And it is another situation where it would have to be set up the right way. Same thing with Freddy Krueger, you know, you'd have to have Freddy Krueger attacking people and killing them in their dreams, and then Superman would have to go to sleep in order to get into their dreams. It would have to be the same thing here. Like, okay, so you have Superman as reporter Clark Kent, and Lois Lane. They find out about this legend of Candyman, and they hear about all these murders happening with Candyman. So they would go in to research this legend, and you'd have to have it in some way where Superman would call Candyman in the mirror. That's the only way it would work, is if Superman were to call Candyman. But again, I don't think Candyman would be able to cut Superman, but I'm wondering if there is a way that he could damage Superman on a different level. Because if you remember in the original Candyman, what did he do with Helen Lyle? Helen Lyle called to Candyman and worked to disprove the legend. Candyman exists through fear. He exists through the legend of him. He gains power through people believing in his legend. Just like with Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger gains power from people fearing him, people being afraid of him. It's the same thing with Candyman. But Candyman did not go right away to kill Helen Lyle. He turned the world against her first. Here's the question, because Candyman is a ghost, and he does stuff supernaturally, would that make him a good enemy for Superman? Because you remember, Candyman was able to put Helen Lyle in a trance. Now, that could be because, you know, some people say, oh, it's because, you know, it suggests... Spoilers for Candyman, by the way, I apologize, but for anybody who hasn't seen Candyman, but it's implied towards the end of Candyman that Helen Lyle is the reincarnation of Candyman's lover. So that might be why he's able to put her in a trance. But what if Candyman were able to put anyone in a trance as he chose? Because he's able to do some really weird shit. He's able to kidnap a baby and keep a baby alive for weeks. With, you know, a baby alive for weeks without anybody finding it. He's able to kill people and then make it look like Helen is the one who murdered them. Could he do the same thing for Superman? Could he put Superman in the same trance that he put Helen in? And then create some scenario where it looks like Superman killed somebody? Or Clark Kent, make it look like Clark Kent killed somebody, and then maybe Superman and that. But, you know, that's what I'm talking about here. That's where Candyman started becoming appealing as a horror villain to put up against Superman. Because, true, he might not be able to cut Superman with his hook, but he can turn the world against Superman. That's why Candyman is one of my favorite horror villains. Candyman and John Ryder from The Hitcher. These are two of my favorite horror villains because they don't just kill people. They turn the world against people, making it so these people want to die, and then they kill them. Now again, I don't know if Superman would be able to actually kill Superman, but again, he could turn everyone against Superman. Because Candyman is a ghost. He's not a physical being. And he could attack Superman on a psychological level by killing the people Superman cares about, but making it look like he's the one doing it. So yeah, Candyman is another villain that another horror villain that I think could go up against Superman. So we've got two. We've got Candyman and we've got Freddy Krueger. I didn't see that coming when I started going through this in my mind. I was literally thinking of adding Candyman to the pile of horror villains that would not stand a chance against Superman. But then when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? Maybe he can. On a psychological level. This is kind of a joke here, but I'm going to talk about my Man Belial. No, he would not stand a chance against Superman. I already know that, but I'm a die-hard Basket Case fan. I love the Basket Case trilogy, and I would hate myself if I didn't bring up my Man Belial in this series. Belial would not be able to beat Superman. No way in hell. It's just like Chucky. There's no way in hell he'd be able to stand a chance against Superman. But if you remember in my review of Basket Case, I mentioned that someone who worked, one of the people who worked on the effects for Basket Case went on to do the makeup effects for the Joker in the Dark Knight movie. And because of that incredibly vague connection, I like to think that the Basket Case movies take place in the same universe as the Batman universe. And that's why I want to see a Basket Case Batman crossover. I want to see Belial meets Batman. And I know for a fact that is never going to happen because I'm the only person in the entire world who wants that. But because I'm a Basket Case fan, I would hate myself if I didn't find some way to bring Belial into this. So, hey, there's just a little fun aside. So anyway, moving on from that ridiculous tangent that I went on, this is where it gets kind of hard because, again, Superman has so few vulnerabilities. It's essentially just kryptonite and magic, from what I know for certain. So it's hard to think of horror villains that could stand a chance against Superman. I mean, you have the Leprechaun, who is magical, but I don't know if he'd stand much of a chance against Superman. I mean, he gets his ass kicked a lot in his own series, so I'm not sure if the Leprechaun would be a good villain for Superman, and I don't think anybody would take that idea seriously anyway. Then you have the Djinn from Wishmaster. But again, the only way that would really work, because he is magical, but the only way that would work is if Superman were to make wishes on that jewel. The jewel that the Djinn lives in. And I don't think Superman would make those wishes. I think he has better self-control than that. He doesn't have too many desires. I mean, he might desire to bring back Krypton, but I think Superman has more common sense than to make these wishes from this clearly evil genie thing. But then there's this other idea that could work to some degree as a horror villain for Superman. But again, it would have to be done in a certain way. That's the case with all these horror villains. It would have to be done in a certain way in order for them to actually even stand a chance against Superman. But here's an idea that could make for a really fun crossover. The Thing. The whole idea of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, is that the alien is a microscopic organism that whatever it touches, it can replicate genetically. I don't know if it would... Again, I don't know if it would be able to replicate Superman's cells, because, again, he gets his power from the sun, and the yellow sun makes him invulnerable. So I don't know if the Thing would actually be able to assimilate Superman. But there is an idea for a story where Superman could be involved against the Thing. I think this would be a lot of fun. So, again, from the research I've done, you have the Justice League. Batman, Superman, The Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, all these different characters that are the Justice League of America, or whatever, and they defend the world. And they have their base, which is this... It's either a space station or a satellite that orbits around the world. So picture this idea. The Thing versus the Justice League. This would be an out of... It would not be part of the canon story for the Justice League. It would have to be some Elseworld crossover story. But think about that. The Thing somehow gets on the satellite that the Justice League work in and starts assimilating different members of the Justice League. And then the Justice League, including Superman, has to figure out who's a thing and who's not. Just picture the paranoia created by John Carpenter's movie, but incorporate that into the Justice League of America. You have a bunch of superheroes working with this paranoia, trying to find out who's a thing and who's not. And think about it this way. If the Thing could assimilate Superman's cells, how would they be able to test him? Because the only way to really be able to test who's a thing and who's not is to do a blood test, and you'd have to somehow get blood from Superman, but Superman can't be cut. So you'd have to find out some other way to do the test, if the Thing could assimilate Superman's cells. But even if he could not assimilate Superman, it could still assimilate the other members of the Justice League. And that creates this terrifying concept. Here's something to think about. If the Thing is able to assimilate members of the Justice League, can it also assimilate their powers? Because the alien makes perfect imitations. Nearly perfect imitations. There are some characters it would not be able to assimilate, like the Cyborg character. And the only reason I know who he is because of the Justice League movie. But he's half robot, and from what... the Thing wouldn't be able to assimilate metal, it would only be able to assimilate part of him, so he'd be safe. As a matter of fact, he would be the perfect person to have on your side while the Thing is loose in whatever area he's in. But just picture that. The Thing loose on the Justice League satellite, assimilating different members of the Justice League, and now you have paranoia among superheroes. I think that would be a fantastic idea. So even though Superman is not really in danger because of that, I think with this idea, you could have the Thing versus Superman, but the rest of the Justice League as well. So I'm going to incorporate that. I'm going to add that to the list. We have Freddy Krueger, we have Candyman, and we have the Thing. The Thing versus the Justice League scenario. That's how that would work. And I'm incorporating that because that sounds like a really fun idea that Hollywood will never do because they suck. And because I know people will want me to bring this up, Pennywise. Pennywise versus Superman. I'm gonna be honest here, and I know I'm gonna anger a lot of people here. I actually think Pennywise is one of the lamest horror villains out there. I mean, when I watched the original It miniseries from the 1990s, I thought he was creepy, but I didn't think he was I thought he was creepy, but not an efficient villain. And I don't think the new Bill Skarsgård Pennywise is that scary, honestly. In It Chapter 1, I thought it was scarier whenever it wasn't the clown. And whenever it was the clown, that's when I wasn't scared anymore. I know people are afraid of clowns, and I'm just not one of them. I do like creepy clowns, but I need more than just the fact that it's a clown to make it scary. And so, It Chapter 1, I always thought it was scary when it was not the clown, except for that one scene with Georgie. I thought that was effective until he opened his mouth with all those CGI teeth. And then I said, oh, really? But yeah, I mean, that scene with Georgie was the only time when he was the clown that I thought he was scary. Every other time, it was when he was not the clown. Whenever he was not the clown, I thought it was scary. And in It Chapter 2, I thought he was less scary. A lot of people love Pennywise, but I honestly think the main reason is because he's a scary clown, and people like scary clowns. But in terms of a villain, I don't think he's that effective. And this is just me, I understand, it's just me. But he's a lot like Freddy Krueger and Candyman, where fear is what drives him. He eats people, but he needs them to be scared first before he eats them. He did kill people, but in the first It movie, he never killed any of the main characters. And in the second one, in It Chapter 2, he didn't kill any of the main characters until the very end. And it was just like, oh yeah, but he has to scare them first. It's like, yeah, okay, he has to scare them first. Freddy Krueger scares people before he kills them too, but he still killed people. He killed a lot of the main characters in Nightmare on Elm Street. You look at Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, you had all these characters who were able to use their own dream abilities to fight back against Freddy, and he was still able to kill a good portion of them. And Candyman, again, the same thing. It's like, in his case, it's the legend, but it is fear that keeps him going. He still killed people, and he turned the world, he turned people against the person who he was going after. So he still damaged them severely. With Pennywise, he'd just show up, go boogie, 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 and then he'd leave. A couple people he did kill, but for the most part, he'd just go boogie, 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 and then he'd disappear. And in It Chapter 2, I thought he was taken out in the lamest possible way. They made fun of him to death. That's it. Literally, they made fun of him until he swiveled into this little baby Pennywise and they ripped out his heart. You can say what you want about the original It miniseries. The spider at the end was lame with the lame effects, but what sounds more badass to you? People tackling a giant spider and ripping out that thing's heart? Or people making fun of a clown until he turns into a little baby thing and then ripping out the heart? I mean, it's just, you could have given Pennywise a Twitter account, and that would have been enough to defeat him. So, yeah, I think Superman would actually be able to beat Pennywise very easily, honestly. But that's just me, and if you like Pennywise, that's great. For me, I don't think he's that effective of a villain. I'm sorry. He's effective when he's not the clown. There aren't too many other horror villains that could stand a chance against Superman. But there is one. There is one that I think could really do a number on Superman. I think, for me, this character is the most powerful horror movie villain. Whenever there is ever a discussion amongst friends or people that I talk to of, if you were in a battle royale with every horror villain, who would you have on your side? Which horror movie villain would you have on your side to fight against the others? And my choice is Sutter Kane from In the Mouth of Madness. And I think Sutter Kane is a good villain to go up against Superman. Who is one of Superman's greatest villains? Darkseid. I don't know too much about Darkseid. the majority of what I understand about Darkseid is what I saw in the Superman animated series from when I watched when I was a kid. But from what I understand, Darkseid is a godlike entity. And for those who have watched In the Mouth of Madness, and this is a spoiler for In the Mouth of Madness, so if anybody has not seen In the Mouth of Madness, go watch In the Mouth of Madness. Sutter Kane becomes a godlike entity. You look at In the Mouth of Madness. What is Sutter Kane able to do in that movie? He creates reality through writing. He's able to control reality through writing. He creates a whole town in his writing. He's able to release the old ones, who are this group of monsters. It's very Lovecraftian-esque. It's very cosmic horror-esque in The Mouth of Madness. And there's a lot of talk of the old ones. And the old ones are the ones who encourage Sutter Kane to write his stories. And again, he's able to create reality through these stories. He's able to release the old ones through his writing. He's able to essentially start the apocalypse from his writing. He controls reality, and then he becomes God towards the end of the story. And again, controls reality in that way. That's what makes him a danger to Superman. When you can control reality, those are the entities that are the most dangerous. That's why Freddy Krueger is so dangerous to Superman. In the realm of nightmares, Freddy controls reality. Dreams are not reality, so Freddy can control that. What Sutter Kane is able to do is essentially do what Freddy Krueger does, but in reality, while people are awake. Maybe not to the same extent, but he is able to control reality through his writing. You have that scene in the Mouth of Madness where John Trent, the character played by Sam Neill, he's having a nightmare, and he comes across Sutter Kane in his nightmares. And this is after Sutter Kane has killed himself. And Sutter Kane explains here that he's God now. He says to Sam Neill, "Did I ever tell you my favorite color was blue?" And then Sam wakes up in the bus that he's traveling on, and everything is blue. People have blue hair, people have blue clothes, there's a blue tint. He freaks out. He wakes up again. But again, that's because Sutter Kane is controlling John Trent. And I think he could do the same to Superman. Sutter Kane is one of the few horror villains that wins. He destroys the entire world, and again, he did this all through writing, until he eventually became God, and then he didn't have to write it anymore. I mean, who's to say that Sutter Kane could not write in his novel that the sun of Earth is now red? It's a frightening thought. For me, Sutter Kane is the most powerful horror movie villain, and he's also the most underrated horror movie villain. He's definitely in my top 5. I mean, as much as I love Freddy and Jason, hold on one second. This fell down. Sorry about that. I have the Robo-War DVD back there. The DVDs and posters I have back there is because I don't have a lot of superhero-related stuff, so I didn't know what else to put back there, so I just figured, throw whatever. But anyway, I mean, as much as I love Freddy, Jason, and Michael, I don't think Sutter Kane gets as much credit as he deserves as a horror movie villain. Again, for as powerful as Freddy Krueger is, I think Sutter Kane is 10 times as powerful. So that, for me, is why Sutter Kane, out of all the horror movie villains out there, Sutter Kane is the #1 horror movie villain that I would put against Superman for an interesting crossover between horror and superhero movies. I'm sure there are more horror villains that could fight Superman, but we're gonna stop there. So, there are so many villains out there, and there are so many villains that definitely do not stand a chance against Superman, but there are definitely some that do. So we have 4 horror movie villains that I really think could stand a chance against Superman. Sutter Kane at #1 for me, followed very closely by Freddy Krueger, and then we have Candyman, which I'm kind of shocked that I went with him, but thinking about it, yes, I think Candyman would be an interesting adversary for Superman, and then you have The Thing, but again, only if it's The Thing versus the Justice League. That's where The Thing would work as a villain for Superman. So anyway, that's my thoughts on horror villains versus Superman from somebody who knows very little about superheroes. I hope you had a good time with this video. Like I said, I just did it for fun. I would love to do more of these horror talks. If you have any topics, please leave them down below as to what you would like me to talk about. Also, in the comments down below, leave some comments on what you think of my choices for villains to fight Superman, and leave comments of other villains that I'm missing that you think could fight Superman. And if there are any comic fans out there, because I have been curious about comic books and I've been wanting to check some out, leave some suggestions down below for good comic books for someone who is very new to this superhero world, because I have been curious. On that note, I want to thank everybody, as always. I want to thank everyone for the continued support of my channel, for continuing to watch this stuff. I'm very happy I'm very happy that people have been enjoying these videos, and there have been quite a few people who have told me that I've introduced them to some movies they never would have watched if it weren't for this channel, which, that, in my mind, is great. Thank you so much for that. I am so happy that I'm able to introduce other people to some fantastic movies that desperately need more people to watch them. And thank you all for continuing to watch. Thank you all for subscribing. Yeah, I have some other videos in the future. I'm currently working on casting a short movie project. It's a horror comedy about a crazy pizza guy. It's going to take a while before I'm able to film that, but keep an eye out for that. But until then, I hope you all are having a good time. I hope you're all having a good week, day, year, whatever. And until next time, this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.